On one unforgettable night, Prince Charles sat down in front of millions of viewers and admitted something that would shake the royal family to its core. It should have been the only story anyone was talking about. Instead, by the following morning, the world was captivated by someone else entirely. Princess Diana hadn't given a television interview. She hadn't responded with a public statement. She didn't say a single word. Yet somehow, she became the biggest headline of the day. The reason wasn't a speech or a press conference. It was a dress. A sleek, off-the-shoulder black gown that instantly became one of the most famous outfits in royal history. What looked like a glamorous fashion choice turned into a powerful message of confidence, resilience, and independence, earning a nickname that has survived for more than 3 decades: the revenge dress. But here's what many people still don't know. Diana hadn't rushed out to buy that dress after hearing Charles's confession. In fact, it had been hanging quietly in her wardrobe for 3 years, waiting for the perfect moment. And the incredible story behind why she finally chose to wear it reveals just how brilliantly Princess Diana understood the power of image, timing, and silent communication. Because on that extraordinary evening, Diana proved that sometimes the strongest response isn't spoken at all. Sometimes, it only takes one unforgettable entrance to change the narrative forever. On the evening of June 29, 1994, all eyes were supposed to be on Prince Charles. After months of anticipation, the future king appeared in a televised interview with journalist Jonathan Dimbleby, where he publicly acknowledged that he had been unfaithful during his marriage to Princess Diana. It was a stunning admission from a senior member of the royal family, one that dominated television schedules and was expected to define the next day's headlines. For many, it seemed impossible that anything could overshadow such a dramatic royal confession. But while millions of viewers were watching Charles on television, Princess Diana was preparing for an entirely different kind of appearance. She had already accepted an invitation to attend a summer gala hosted by Vanity Fair at London's Serpentine Gallery, and despite the extraordinary circumstances surrounding that evening, she chose not to cancel. Instead of retreating from public view, Diana arrived at the event looking calm, confident, and completely composed, as if she had made a conscious decision not to let anyone else dictate how her story would be told. Then came the moment that changed everything. As Diana stepped out of her car, photographers immediately realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. She wasn't wearing the conservative gowns or traditional royal evening dresses the public had grown accustomed to seeing. Instead, she appeared in a striking off-the-shoulder black dress that hugged her silhouette, featuring an elegant asymmetrical hemline and a flowing chiffon train. It was sophisticated, daring, and unlike almost anything she had worn before. The outfit instantly captured every camera in sight, and within moments, attention began shifting away from Charles's television interview and toward Diana's unforgettable entrance. The reaction was immediate. Guests at the Serpentine Gallery reportedly gasped as Diana made her way into the event, while photographers raced to capture every angle of the look that would soon become one of the most famous outfits in royal history. Royal fashion commentator Elizabeth Holmes later observed that the appearance all but guaranteed Diana the front pages of newspapers, even on a day when Charles had delivered one of the biggest royal revelations in decades. In an era when newspaper space was limited and editors had to decide which images deserved the front page, Diana's arrival made that decision surprisingly easy. What made the moment even more remarkable was that Diana never addressed Charles's confession publicly that evening. She didn't hold a press conference. She didn't release a carefully worded statement. She didn't answer questions from reporters waiting outside the venue. Instead, she allowed her appearance to speak for itself. Without saying a single word, she redirected the conversation. By the following morning, many of the headlines weren't simply about Charles admitting infidelity. They were equally focused on Diana's breathtaking appearance and the confidence she projected while the entire world was watching. Royal commentators would later describe the evening as one of the greatest examples of image management in modern history. At a time when royal messaging was usually controlled through official statements and carefully planned public appearances, Diana communicated through fashion. The dress became more than fabric and tailoring. It became a statement of resilience, independence, and quiet defiance. Rather than appearing defeated by the events unfolding around her, she projected strength, grace, and self-assurance, winning admiration from millions of people who saw the moment unfold. Looking back today, it's clear that June 29, 1994, wasn't remembered simply because of what Prince Charles admitted on television. It became unforgettable because Princess Diana rewrote the narrative without uttering a single sentence. In just a few unforgettable moments, she transformed what could have been one of the most painful nights of her life into one of the defining moments of her public legacy. But perhaps the most fascinating part of the story hadn't happened that evening at all. Because the dress that stunned the world wasn't a last-minute decision. It had been waiting patiently in Diana's wardrobe for 3 years, as though it had always been destined for that exact moment. To the world, it looked as though Princess Diana had chosen the perfect outfit in response to Prince Charles's explosive television interview. The timing was so extraordinary that many assumed the dress had been bought specifically for that evening. But the truth is even more remarkable. Diana hadn't rushed out to find a bold new look after learning what Charles was going to say. In reality, the famous black dress had already been hanging quietly in her wardrobe for 3 years, waiting for a moment no one could have predicted. The elegant off-the-shoulder gown was created by Greek designer Christina Stambolian, whom Diana first visited in 1991 while searching for something unlike anything else in her royal wardrobe. According to those familiar with the fitting, Diana had a very clear vision from the beginning. She reportedly told Stambolian, "I want a special dress for a special occasion. It doesn't matter if it is short or long. It has to be something special." Those words would become almost prophetic, although neither Diana nor the designer could have imagined just how significant that future occasion would eventually become. The finished design was unlike the formal gowns people had come to associate with the Princess of Wales. It featured a sleek, body-hugging silhouette, an elegant off-the-shoulder neckline, an asymmetrical hemline, and a delicate chiffon train that added movement without overwhelming the simplicity of the dress. Compared with the elaborate royal gowns Diana had worn throughout the 1980s, the design felt refreshingly modern. It was sophisticated without being overly formal and confident without appearing theatrical. It represented the evolution of Diana's personal style long before the rest of the world fully recognized it. Yet despite commissioning the gown, Diana never wore it. Month after month, and eventually year after year, the dress remained untouched in her wardrobe. Christina Stambolian later admitted that she initially couldn't understand why her client had ignored what she believed was one of her most striking creations. Only later did the realization dawn on her. Looking back, the designer reflected that Diana seemed to have been waiting for exactly the right moment. 3 years passed before the opportunity finally arrived, transforming what had once seemed like an unworn evening dress into one of the most famous garments in modern history. Ironically, the now legendary revenge dress wasn't even Diana's original choice for the Serpentine Gallery Gala. Reports suggest she had planned to wear a Valentino gown instead. But after details of that outfit leaked to the press before the event, Diana reportedly changed her mind. Rather than appearing in a dress everyone was already expecting to see, she returned to the forgotten Stambolian design that had been waiting patiently in her closet. In doing so, she unknowingly created one of fashion's most unforgettable moments. That last-minute decision changed everything. Instead of arriving in a beautiful but predictable designer gown, Diana stepped out wearing a dress that would become permanently linked to one of the biggest royal stories of the decade. It was elegant, unexpected, and perfectly suited to the emotional weight of the evening. Whether she intended it or not, the timing transformed the gown into something much bigger than fashion. It became a symbol of confidence, resilience, and reclaiming control of her own narrative. Perhaps that's why the story of the revenge dress continues to fascinate people decades later. It reminds us that history's most iconic moments aren't always carefully orchestrated. Sometimes they emerge from a combination of patience, instinct, and perfect timing. A dress that had waited silently for 3 years suddenly found the exact moment it was meant to be seen, and when it finally did, it changed the conversation around Princess Diana forever. But despite how effortless Diana looked that evening, there was one detail hidden from the public. Just hours before stepping into the spotlight, she was battling a wave of uncertainty that almost convinced her not to wear the dress at all. Looking back at the photographs from that unforgettable evening, it's easy to imagine Princess Diana feeling completely confident the moment she stepped out of the car. She looked poised, elegant, and seemingly in complete control of the narrative. But behind the scenes, the reality was very different. According to those who were with her that day, Diana spent the hours leading up to the event wrestling with self-doubt, anxiety, and one overwhelming question: should she even go at all? As Prince Charles's television interview drew closer to airing, Diana knew exactly what the public was about to hear. The revelations about their troubled marriage would dominate headlines, and she understood that every move she made that evening would be examined through that lens. Rather than looking forward to the gala, she reportedly questioned whether facing the cameras was even possible. It wasn't simply another royal engagement anymore. It had become one of the most emotionally charged nights of her life. Much of what happened behind closed doors comes from the recollections of Diana's longtime butler, Paul Burrell. In his memoir A Royal Duty, he described a princess who was deeply nervous as she prepared for the evening. According to Burrell, Diana's thoughts were split in two. Part of her mind was fixed on the television documentary that would soon broadcast Charles's admission to millions of viewers. The other part was consumed by something that might seem surprisingly ordinary, whether she had chosen the right dress. As Diana looked through her wardrobe, uncertainty took over. Burrell later recalled her reportedly saying, "I can't go. I can't face the world knowing what Charles has just said." It wasn't just fear of public attention, it was the emotional weight of walking into a room full of cameras on the same night her private pain was becoming international news. For a moment, it seemed entirely possible that she would cancel the appearance and disappear from public view. Then came another hesitation. When Diana's eyes settled on the black Christina Stambolian dress, she still wasn't convinced it was the right choice. According to Burrell, she turned to him and asked, "You don't think it's too much?" It was a revealing question. The dress was unlike anything she had worn before. The off-the-shoulder neckline, shorter hemline, and bodice-skimming silhouette broke away from the conservative image people associated with the Princess of Wales. Choosing it meant embracing a bold new version of herself at one of the most vulnerable moments of her life. Burrell reassured her, and after a final pause, Diana made her decision. "Here goes then, Paul," she reportedly said. Those 4 words marked the beginning of one of the most iconic entrances in royal history. It's remarkable to think how close the world came to never seeing the revenge dress at all. Had Diana listened to her doubts, she might have stayed home, allowing Charles's interview to dominate every headline without challenge. Instead, she chose courage over fear. She stepped into the spotlight at the exact moment many expected her to retreat, transforming an evening that could have been remembered solely for heartbreak into one remembered for confidence and resilience. Perhaps that's what makes the story so enduring. The revenge dress wasn't the result of someone feeling fearless. It was worn by a woman who was frightened, uncertain, and emotionally exhausted, yet chose to face the world anyway. That quiet act of determination is what gives the moment its lasting power. It wasn't simply about fashion. It was about reclaiming control when everything else seemed beyond her control. And once Diana stepped out of that car, all of those private doubts disappeared behind one unforgettable image. Because from that moment on, the conversation was no longer about what Prince Charles had admitted on television. It was about the woman who had answered without saying a single word. When Prince Charles's interview aired that evening, it was expected to become one of the defining moments in modern royal history. During the televised conversation with Jonathan Dimbleby, the future king admitted that he had been unfaithful during his marriage to Princess Diana once the relationship had irretrievably broken down. It was a remarkable confession, one that shocked viewers across Britain and dominated television broadcasts. On paper, Charles had delivered the biggest royal story of the year. But history remembers that night very differently. By the following morning, newspapers weren't only talking about Charles's admission. They were filled with photographs of Princess Diana stepping confidently into the Serpentine Gallery wearing the sleek black Christina Stambolian dress that would soon become known around the world as the revenge dress. In a matter of hours, the public conversation had shifted. Instead of seeing Diana as the woman at the center of a painful confession, millions saw a confident, elegant princess who appeared stronger than ever. What made the moment so extraordinary was that Diana never tried to compete with Charles through words. She didn't schedule an interview of her own. She didn't release a statement criticizing him or attempt to explain her side of the story that evening. Instead, she relied on something she had mastered over the years, letting her appearance communicate emotions that speeches never could. It was a lesson in silent storytelling, and the effect was immediate. Royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams later described the moment as a complete triumph for Diana. In his view, she managed to tell the world exactly how she felt without speaking directly about the scandal. More importantly, she won something far more valuable than headlines. She won public sympathy. While Charles's interview became remembered primarily for his admission of infidelity, Diana's appearance came to symbolize confidence, dignity, and resilience. According to Fitzwilliams, the interview turned into a public relations disaster for Charles because the image people remembered most wasn't his television confession, it was Diana's unforgettable entrance. Fashion commentator Elizabeth Holmes has also pointed out why the dress was so effective. During that era, newspaper front pages offered only limited space, and editors had to choose carefully which photographs would represent the day's biggest stories. Diana's striking appearance all but guaranteed that her image would dominate those pages alongside, and often above, Charles's interview. In an age before social media, when a single newspaper cover could shape public opinion, that visual impact was incredibly powerful. The symbolism of the outfit made the moment even stronger. Diana had rarely worn black evening dresses outside occasions associated with mourning, and she was almost never seen in hemlines above the knee. By stepping away from traditional royal fashion, she subtly signaled that something fundamental had changed. Many observers interpreted the black dress as representing the end of her marriage, while its sleek, modern silhouette projected a woman reclaiming her confidence after years of personal turmoil. Whether every detail was intentionally symbolic or not, the public read the message clearly. Perhaps that's why the dress became known as the revenge dress, even though Diana herself never publicly used that term. The name wasn't about anger or retaliation. It reflected something much quieter, and arguably much more powerful. Instead of responding with bitterness, Diana responded with grace. Instead of allowing herself to be defined by someone else's actions, she reminded the world who she was on her own terms. She shifted the narrative without confrontation, proving that sometimes the strongest statement is made through confidence rather than conflict. Looking back more than 3 decades later, it's remarkable how one outfit managed to reshape one of the biggest royal scandals of the 20th century. Charles's interview remains an important historical moment, but for millions of people, the lasting image of that night isn't a television studio. It's Princess Diana stepping confidently out of a car, smiling for the cameras, and silently taking back control of her own story. But while the dress captured the world's attention, there was another layer to the story that many people didn't notice at the time. Because every accessory Diana chose that evening, from the jewelry around her neck to the ring still on her finger, carried a message of its own. While the black Christina Stambolian dress became the center of attention that evening, it wasn't the only thing making a statement. Almost every detail Princess Diana chose, from the jewelry around her neck to the shoes beneath her feet, appeared to tell its own story. Looking back, fashion historians believe this wasn't simply an outfit assembled for a glamorous night out. It was a carefully balanced look that blended elegance, symbolism, and quiet confidence, allowing Diana to communicate without ever having to explain herself. Perhaps the most striking detail was something many people didn't notice at first. Despite the very public breakdown of her marriage, Diana still wore her sapphire and diamond engagement ring, the same ring Prince Charles had given her years earlier. At a time when many expected her to distance herself completely from that chapter of her life, keeping the ring on her finger created a fascinating contrast. Some interpreted it as a reminder that, although the marriage had fallen apart, her identity and dignity had not. Others believed it reflected Diana's determination not to let one painful evening erase everything that had come before. Whatever her personal reasoning, the decision added another layer of intrigue to an already unforgettable appearance. Around her neck was another piece that carried remarkable history. Diana wore a stunning multistrand pearl choker centered around a large sapphire, a jewel that had originally been gifted to her as a brooch by the Queen Mother as a wedding present. Rather than wearing it in its original form, Diana had transformed it into one of her most recognizable necklaces. The result was breathtaking. The pearls softened the boldness of the black dress, while the sapphire echoed the famous engagement ring still resting on her hand. Together, the jewelry created a look that felt regal without being overly traditional, a perfect reflection of the new chapter Diana was entering. She also chose the Collingwood pearl drop earrings, another deeply meaningful accessory. Originally given to Diana as an engagement gift, the elegant earrings would later become familiar to royal fans for another reason. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has worn them on several important occasions, quietly continuing one small piece of Diana's fashion legacy. It's a touching reminder that some of Diana's most treasured possessions have continued connecting generations of the royal family long after her passing. Even the accessories that received less attention helped complete the message. Diana paired the dress with classic Manolo Blahnik heels and carried a simple Salvatore Ferragamo clutch, avoiding anything overly elaborate or distracting. She also wore a diamond and sapphire bracelet believed to have been a gift from the Emir of Qatar. Every piece complemented the outfit instead of competing with it, allowing the overall look to project effortless sophistication. There were no unnecessary embellishments, no dramatic excess, just carefully chosen details working together in perfect harmony. Then there was the dress itself. In 1994, seeing a senior royal appear in an above-the-knee black evening dress was highly unusual. Black was traditionally associated with mourning, while Diana's shorter hemline and off-the-shoulder neckline broke away from many of the unwritten fashion conventions the royal family had followed for decades. To many observers, the symbolism felt impossible to ignore. Some interpreted the black as mourning, not for a person, but for the end of her marriage. Others saw it as the color of reinvention, representing a woman stepping out of one chapter of her life and confidently into another. Perhaps that's what made the entire look so unforgettable. Every accessory seemed to carry a memory. Every piece hinted at a story. None of it felt accidental. Whether Diana intended every symbol exactly as the public interpreted it is something only she could have answered. But that's the beauty of iconic fashion. It allows people to find meaning long after the moment has passed. On that extraordinary evening, Diana wasn't simply wearing beautiful clothes. She was wearing confidence, resilience, and a quiet refusal to let one painful chapter define the rest of her story. More than 30 years later, those messages are still being decoded. The dress has become one of the most recognizable garments ever worn by a royal, while the jewelry, the styling, and even the shoes continue inspiring fashion lovers around the world. And perhaps the greatest proof of its impact is this: the influence of the revenge dress didn't end when Diana left the Serpentine Gallery that night. In many ways, it was only just beginning. More than 30 years have passed since Princess Diana stepped out of that car outside London's Serpentine Gallery, yet the revenge dress remains as recognizable today as it was in 1994. In an industry where trends can disappear within months, very few outfits continue influencing designers, celebrities, and popular culture decades later. But Diana's black Christina Stambolian dress has done exactly that. It has become far more than a memorable royal look. It has become a symbol of confidence, reinvention, and taking back control of your own story. Its journey didn't end with Diana herself. In 1997, just months before her tragic death, Diana made the deeply personal decision to auction dozens of pieces from her wardrobe to raise money for charitable causes. Among them was the now famous black dress. It eventually sold for around $74,000 to Scottish collector Graham Mackenzie, who continues to own it today. Rather than being displayed permanently, the dress is reportedly kept safely inside a bank vault, only emerging occasionally for special exhibitions where thousands of visitors gather to see one of fashion history's most legendary garments in person. Every time it returns to public view, interest is reignited all over again. One of its most memorable exhibitions came in 2017 during Diana, a fashion legacy at Ireland's Museum of Style Icons, created to mark the 20th anniversary of Diana's passing. Visitors weren't simply admiring an elegant black dress, they were standing in front of a piece of history that had changed the conversation around one of the most dramatic moments in the royal family's modern story. The revenge dress has also found a new audience through television and film. When actress Elizabeth Debicki portrayed Princess Diana in the 5th and 6th seasons of The Crown, costume designers painstakingly recreated the iconic outfit for one of the series' most anticipated scenes. The replica later became a collector's item itself, selling at auction alongside hundreds of other props from the acclaimed Netflix drama. It was another reminder that Diana's most famous fashion moment continues captivating people who weren't even born when the original event took place. Its influence extends beyond museums and television screens. In late 2024, Diana's twin nieces, Lady Amelia Spencer and Lady Eliza Spencer, attended the British Fashion Awards wearing elegant black gowns that many fashion observers viewed as subtle tributes to their aunt's unforgettable look. They weren't direct copies, but the inspiration was unmistakable. More than 3 decades later, Diana's signature silhouette was still inspiring members of her own family, proving that her fashion legacy continues across generations. Perhaps the greatest testament to the revenge dress, however, is the way it has transformed the language of modern fashion. Today, the phrase revenge dressing has become part of popular culture. It describes those unforgettable moments when someone uses clothing not out of bitterness, but as a way to express confidence, resilience, and personal transformation after a difficult chapter in life. The concept has appeared on red carpets around the world, with celebrities embracing bold, empowering styles following major personal or professional changes. Recent examples have only strengthened Diana's influence. After her separation from actor David Harbour became public, singer Lily Allen drew attention in a striking two-piece outfit that many commentators described as a modern example of revenge dressing. Jennifer Lopez also sparked widespread discussion after appearing in a dazzling, body-conscious gown shortly after filing for divorce from Ben Affleck. Although every celebrity interprets the idea differently, the underlying message remains remarkably similar to the one Diana conveyed back in 1994. Confidence doesn't always require words. And perhaps that's why Princess Diana's revenge dress continues to resonate after all these years. It wasn't simply beautiful, expensive, or daring. It represented a woman refusing to let one painful moment define her future. Without delivering a speech, holding a press conference, or criticizing anyone publicly, Diana quietly reminded the world that strength can be expressed through grace, confidence, and authenticity. She reclaimed her own narrative with elegance instead of anger, and that lesson remains just as powerful today as it was more than 3 decades ago. In the end, the revenge dress was never really about revenge at all. It was about resilience. It was about transformation. It was about a woman finding her own voice at a moment when the world expected her to remain silent. And that's why, long after countless fashion trends have faded away, one simple black dress continues to stand as one of the most iconic garments ever worn, not just by a princess, but by anyone who has ever chosen confidence over defeat. What do you think? Is the revenge dress the most iconic royal fashion moment of all time, or is there another Princess Diana look that deserves that title? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoy uncovering the untold stories behind history's most unforgettable celebrity moments, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video.